headed up a pipeliner during the Great Depression, and hostage to both the job and my mother's hospital bills. Part of that job involved dredging channels through freshwater swamp and marshland, poisoning the root system with saline, and contributing to the erosion of the Edenic wetlands in which he'd grown up. We stayed at the Hotel Frederick in New Iberia, his birthplace, whenever his company sent him to Louisiana. The Frederick was a grand building, 4 stories high, made entirely of brick and stone and concrete, with a roofed gallery above the entrance and a ballroom, and marble pillars and potted ferns and palms in the lobby, and a birdcage elevator and wood-bladed ceiling fans, and a saloon with bat-wing doors, and a shoeshine stand where a man of color popped a rag in 4/4 time. I loved staying at the Frederick and riding up and down on the elevator and waking to the Angelus. I loved eating breakfast in the dining room with my father, just as I loved everything else we did together in New Iberia. It was raining when we returned to the hotel. The sky was black, veined with electricity, the fog as soft and white as cotton rolling off the Bayou Teche. We ate silently in the dining room. There was no one else in the room except a waiter and 2 men in suits eating in the corner with their hats on. My father looked casually at the 2 men, then ordered a bowl of ice cream for me and went into the saloon. When he came back, I could smell whiskey and cherries on his breath. "Ready?" he said. "Yes, sir," I said. "Was that ice cream okay?" "It was fine." "You're a good boy, Aaron. Don't ever forget that. You're the best little boy I've ever known." We rode up in the elevator, piloted by an elderly black man in a gray uniform and a white shirt and a black tie. "Mighty cold out there tonight," he said. "Yes, it is," my father said. The black man stopped on the 3rd floor, the skeleton-like structures of the elevator rattling. "Mr. Broussard?" "Yes?" The black man's eyes were lowered. "These are dangerous times. That's when bad people tend to come around." My father waited for him to go on, but he didn't. "Thank you, Clarence," he said. After we were inside our room, he went to the window and looked down on the street, then pulled the shade and turned on the desk lamp and sat down. "I owe you an explanation, Aaron." "About the dead men?" "A German submarine was out there. I saw its conning tower and periscope go underwater." "Why didn't you tell the people that on the radio?" "The government always knows this. But they didn't want to share their information." "Why not?" "Maybe they're afraid of panic. Maybe they wish to hide their incompetence." "But they're supposed to tell the truth," I said. "This is a different kind of situation, Aaron. The families of the burned men in the water won't know where they are." He looked at the design in the rug. The fabric was worn, the colors softened with dust. "They knew what they were doing when they signed on. The world is for the living." "This doesn't sound like you, Daddy," I said. "The government is wrong to suppress the truth. If they question me, I'll tell them what we saw. But I'll also have to tell the newspapers. Not to do so would be dishonorable." "I don't understand." "The men who start wars never go to them," he said. "They kill people with a fountain pen and call themselves leaders. Never allow yourself to become their servant, Aaron." That night I dreamed of a giant shark that had a human face. It broke the surface of the Gulf and crunched a toy ship in its jaws, a red cloud blossoming in the waves around its head, pieces of the ship and tiny men washing through the wetlands and into the streets of New Iberia, and through the lobby of the Frederick Hotel, and up the elevator shaft and into our room, drowning my father and me. The next day was Saturday. My father took me across the street to Provost's bar and pool room for lunch. That might seem strange in our current culture, but in that era in South Louisiana, the pagan world and Christianity had formed a truce and got along well. The ceiling was plated with stamped tin that resembled pewter, and was hung with wood-bladed fans. There were domino and bourrée and pool tables in back, and a ticker tape under the glass hood below the blackboards, where gaming results of all kinds were posted. On Saturday afternoons, the floor was littered with football betting cards. There was no profanity in Provost's, no coarseness, no ill manners. When we went to Provost, we always sat at a corner table with a checkered tablecloth, and my father always bought me a po' boy fried oyster sandwich and a side of dirty rice and a bottle of Dr. Nutt, the best cold drink ever made. But as soon as I sat down, I knew that today was different, that the world had changed, that the sinking of the tanker would not leave our lives. The 2 men who had been eating in the Frederick's dining room with their hats on came through the front door.